So I want to talk to you about today's investment summit. Keir Starmer says it's a great moment to back Britain. Rachel Reeves says she's never been more optimistic. It feels like a bit of a change in tone. Is this an acknowledgement that you, I guess, kind of botched the messaging a bit in the first 100 days, that you weren't positive enough?
Well, when we came in, we found a £22 billion black hole in the public finances, and it's hard to be cheerful about that. And I think it would have been jarring for lots of people if, on one hand, we're saying we're making really tough choices for the country to stabilise the public finances and get the economy back on track, but we're really cheerful about it. Today, though, I mean, £63 billion worth of investment unlocked either during the day with the deals we signed or in the run-up to the investment summit. That's going to create tens of thousands of jobs across the country, and genuinely right across the country, from places like Blyth and Greater Manchester in the north east and northwest of England, not just in London and the southeast, although there'll be jobs there too. And perhaps even more importantly, not often I'd say this, even more important than what the Prime Minister and the Chancellor had to say, were the people flying in from outside who were talking about how they viewed this government and how they view this country and its potential. And that really was exciting and affirming, because you've got people who are seeing Britain as a place they want to invest, who are actively signing deals now, but also talking about where that partnership between business and this government can go. One
of the people flying in was the boss of Google. He suggested you need a Minister of Anti-Regulation. Do you agree with him?
Well, I think this argument about pro-anti-regulation, which has sometimes fallen into a left-right argument, has often not been the right debate in politics.
So he's wrong then, the boss of Google?
No, actually, I agreed with him very strongly, actually. I mean, take the NHS. We have huge amounts of regulation, and of course it concerns the provision of health and care. That's patient safety, it's life and death. Really important that we have regulation in place. My observation, and in fact some work that's currently being done at the moment to review our health regulator, finds that there is actually so much regulation that the people regulated aren't clear about what it is they're supposed to be doing. And we've got multiple regulators who are often colliding with each other and working across each other. So more regulation doesn't always mean better regulation.
So don't you think there's too much regulation in the NHS in some aspects then?
I do, and I also think there's far too much regulation in the economy. And I think we want to focus on what works. Where regulation is standing in the way of success, we will seek to simplify it, and where it's unnecessary, get rid of it. And actually, often that means more effective regulation than just the volumes and volumes, because often what politicians do in particular is say, well, there's a problem, I'll introduce a new regulation, that will solve it. And you do that again and again and again, and before you know it, you're completely drowning in regulation to the extent that the regulators and the regulated aren't clear about what their priorities are. So sometimes simplicity is more effective, and that's been traditionally a right-left debate in British politics, but it really shouldn't be. It should be a right-wrong conversation.
I want to talk a bit about the Green Paper, which was published today as well. This is a line from the foreword written by the Chancellor and Business Secretary. We're forging a closer relationship with the European Union, ensuring smoother trade and simpler processes for doing business. How's that going?
Well, I think there's an opportunity to, now that the dust really has well and truly settled on Brexit, the wrangling's over, the argument's finished, and actually there are new relationships. There's a new government here that isn't scarred by those experiences of bitter Brexit negotiations. There are new players on the continent. I think there really is an opportunity to work more effectively together and build a new partnership. I was at the G7 Health Ministers meeting in Ancona last week, and our European partners there, France, Germany, the European Commission itself, Italy, the hosts, they are interested in working with Britain as their near and closest friend.
Some people might be thinking, like, there's one market over here, there's another market over here. There's one way to ensure this, smoother trade and simpler processes, maybe having one market. I'm struggling to think of the word. Can you help me? Yeah,
I know, but I campaign passionately to remain in the European Union, but a referendum and 2 subsequent general elections settled that question.
But this isn't about remaining in the European Union. There'll be some people genuinely who are thinking, why can't there be, and I'm not saying what's right or wrong here, but why can't there be an open debate about the single market, about the customs union, without this government trying to shut it down?
Well, the debate has been taking place non-stop in the run-up to and since the referendum.
But it doesn't feel like it is now, though, does it?
Well, because I think people have moved.
What
I think
Brexit should look like.
people have moved on. The country's moved on. The EU's moved on. And let me tell you, not just here but in Brussels, there is no appetite to relitigate those arguments, to reopen things that have been settled. Actually, it's about a
Even
new.
if it damages growth.
It's about a new friendship.
Your own green paper says investment is reduced by 11% because of Brexit.
There's no doubt that what we warned about in advance of the referendum in terms of the impact on economic growth has come to pass, and that's a fact of life we have to deal with. I think the sweet spot is working as closely with the European Union where we can, but also showing the agility to work with and through partners in other markets as well. And there is that sweet spot there to unlock, and that will be the agile way in which we work.
You're here because you want to talk about a deal that you struck with the world's largest pharmaceutical company. The boss of that company, David Ricks, made the Brexit point on Radio 4 today. He said the difference in the UK on your own now, separate from Europe, is a relatively small market.
And there was another business leader who approached me today to say, look, and this is their continental base, but they said, look, there are a couple of EU regulations that are making life harder for us. They don't apply in the UK. Can we have a conversation? So I think there are some of those opportunities that also open up. The great thing for me about today's summit wasn't just the £63 billion that's been unlocked, the tens of thousands of jobs that will be created in every part of the country. It's also exactly these sorts of conversations where people, particularly not just brilliant business leaders here in Britain, but those from around the world, are coming in and giving their worldview on where Britain sits, the opportunities we can make the most of, and how we can work together with business. And I was on the panel with Dave Ricks today, looking at life sciences, data, and there was that constructive challenge and friendly advice that comes from being good partners and good friends. So I'm confident off the back of today, not only will we see the investments come to fruition that we've, in terms of the deals we've signed today and the impact that's going to have, I think there'll be new partnerships, new deals being struck over the coming years that will really put rocket boosters under growth in our country. And that's so important because when we get to the budget and the Chancellor's got difficult choices to make around tax and spending, we should not forget that those choices would not be so hard if Britain's economy was growing to the extent that it did under the last Labour government and to the extent that we've seen around the world. So I think there's real opportunities for growth, which is putting money back into people's pockets and investing in our public services using the proceeds of growth. That's why it matters.